Welcome to the Inspired Action Podcast. This is where we have motivational, inspiring conversations and interviews that we hope you'll enjoy listening to.
Join us and other inspired actioneers on this alchemical, transformational journey.
Welcome back to the Inspired Action Podcast. My name is Jay, and I'm here with my co-host, as always, Leta Herman.
Hello, everyone.
And this is Pod 80, the first of Season 5, and we are actually broadcasting this podcast from the world headquarters of the Inspired Action Podcast. and the Born Perfect Inc., which is our publishing company, which is what we're going to talk about today. That's why I mentioned it. We just came out with a new book. It's called Through the Mystery Gate, and we're just completely over the moon to tell you all about it. We're going to bring you up to date on all our projects, and we are jumping into 2021 a little bit late, but we are here.
And we're so excited. We just released this book on March 3rd of 2021, and it's just so exciting. So if you want more information about all that we're doing regarding the book and everything else, just go to our website, inspiredactionpodcast.com, and you can get caught up on what's been going on with our new stuff. Okay, so Season 5, what's it going to be, Jay?
Well, I think we're going to dive into the book. We're so excited about this book. It's about alchemy. It's got a little bit of 5 elements. It's just got all kinds of really good things. Leta has some really good case studies in there and different people she's worked with over the years. And we've kind of weaved through the 9 stages of alchemy. And it's just, we're going to make this part of the podcast, Season 5, a companion to that book. So the whole season is going to be kind of dedicated to this coming out of this book Through the Mystery Gate.
Yes, this book tells readers how to become an alchemist.
And Leta, wait, why would you even want to be an alchemist?
Exactly. Why? Why would you want to be?
I mean, I know why I want to be an alchemist. I know why you want to be an alchemist, but why would the listeners want to be an alchemist?
Do you want me to answer that question now?
Yes, step by step, slowly, one word at a time. No, go ahead. Give us a little short version.
Well, being an alchemist is really about, how can you live your life authentically with the freedom to do what's right for you, with the ability to live like a child in terms of not taking a lot of the past into your present every day so that you can be free to experience what you want to experience. An alchemist is trying to, evolve themselves so that they can truly fly in their life and live their full potential.
There you go. That's it. That's pretty much life. And a tiny little, you do that all the time. You just drop the mic drop right in the beginning.
Mic drop.
So you don't have to listen anymore if you don't want to. Just, that's it. Record,
Okay.
Go back, listen to that, and that's it. But no. So before we get into all of that, and we're going to unpack all of that, because that was a lot, and it was beautifully said. We're just going to take that a little bit at a time. And before we do that, let's just kind of talk about how you think this podcast for the next season of Alchemy here. We're going to unpack this as well. And how are we going to move through? What's the general gist of this season?
Well, I think basically we're going to go through the 9 stages of alchemy step by step and just really, slow it all down and make it really accessible and easy
we'll
for
make this
listeners.
like a companion.
Yes, a companion
a
for the book.
podcast companion. Oh, they can hold hands and be besties. Right?
That sounds good.
Right, so we're going to make you a bestie kind of companion to the book.
And, and that's not all, because we have a new website called Alchemy Learning Center. And that is a community center, a place for online classes, live events, and a lot of other things that can really be that bonus material that helps you sort of integrate all of this material. So there's the podcast, there's the book, and then there's
classes,
the learning center.
meditations.
Yeah.
So if you are, we're going to try to do this a new thing, and we're not sure we're going to do it this particular podcast, but coming up, we're going to have bonus material for the members. So we might do a podcast and then save some of the other details for the member center. We're not sure. We're going to work that out. We've gotten a couple of requests from some of the members to go deeper into some of the topics. So we might do that. We have so much going on. We just want to keep you all informed. We have the book, we have the learning center, and part of the learning center is the Wednesday nights. We have a Wu Wei Wednesday night, 7:30. Everyone in the learning center just comes in. We talk about the 5 elements, the 9 palaces, alchemy. We talk about all different things. It's kind of fun. We have a good a good time.
Yeah, it's like if you've been a long-time listener and you want more and you'd love to join in a conversation with us, then that's the place to do it.
Yeah. So if you want to come and have a good time. Oh, wait, that doesn't quite sound right.
No, that's
come
not
have
quite
a
right.
good time. No, if you want to come and have an educational, fun learning time,
then come to the alchemylearningcenter.com.
Yes. All right. So let's get going, Leta. Let's get going. You know, how was just thinking, when did we start this podcast? This is season 5.
We started in April of 2018.
Wow. In podcast land, that's like a baby dinosaur. We were a little late coming into the podcast, but not too late. I mean, some people are starting today. So we're like little tiny dinosaurs, but it seems like a long time. We've had so much fun doing this. And so, you know, in 2021, which is the year of the metal ox, Leta, I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
We love to talk about Chinese philosophy, the Taoists, and how we can apply these modern, you know, we're in a modern life. So how can we apply these ancient philosophies into our modern lives, which, you know, super cool concepts for us is alchemy, 5 elements, 9 palaces, and just living this Wu way of kind of life.
Yes, so many of our listeners don't really know that much about Taoism or Chinese medicine. In fact, they're not necessarily acupuncturists or Chinese medicine practitioners. They might receive acupuncture or acupressure, but, you know, they might not really understand as much as an acupuncturist would. And yet we have also a lot of listeners who are Chinese medicine practitioners as well. And this podcast is for them as well. And, you know, years ago when we first started learning about all this stuff, well, for me, when I first learned about Chinese medicine concepts like 20 plus years ago, I kept thinking...
Okay, so you're a medium dinosaur.
Yes. I kept thinking everyone needs to know this stuff. And that's always been the driving force behind this podcast.
And I think it's behind all of our work, actually. It's kind of like we have a couple cornerstones, and that is one of them, that anyone who wants to learn this kind of stuff it's right there.
And the books are there for that too. You know, we have some great books. We have two 5 elements books. We have a book on gua sha, which is a technique we've talked about in the podcast before. And we have now Through the Mystery Gate, our latest book, which is all about alchemy.
Yeah. And so, you know, one of the other things we love to do with the work that we do is we love to incorporate this into lives. How do you weave this knowledge into a life? And how do you understand the concepts of connecting with nature and self-cultivation and, you know, all these different things that we love to just talk about, but how does it make sense to you on a day-to-day basis? And, you know, we can kind of talk about, you know, Taoism and Chinese medicine, but for today, let's talk a little bit about the 5 elements and the leading up to this book.
Yeah. So, you know, what we've been looking at is what are all the ingredients that you need to think about to become an alchemist? And first and foremost, who are you? If you ask the question,
I'm sure I've done that before. I'm so sorry.
There you go. If you ask the question, who am I? And you ask it in a very deep way, like in a meditation, which, you know, for our book launch party, we did a meditation called Who Am I? And, you know, we'll put that up on the Learning Center soon enough. And so the Who Am I meditation is really asking your spirit self, who are you? It's not like mother, teacher, student, whatever, you know, it's not those kinds of titles.
A lot of hats. Yeah, we're talking about energetically. Yeah. So we talked about in one of our Wednesday nights, actually a couple of them, about elementally what kind of meditation would work for you.
Works best for you.
Yeah.
And we're going to have an upcoming 5 Element Fridays sequence where we're going to talk about what kinds of meditation each of the elements does. It's going to be really cool.
So I always try to, when I explain this to people, I like to say 5 elements, you learn how you move through the world energetically. The 9 palaces is your curriculum of why you're here. And then alchemy is like the fairy dust that kind of gives you the freedom to have this amazing life.
Yes. And the 9 palaces, you know, once you know who you are, meaning elementally who you are, what your values are, what you find meaningful in life, this is all related to the 5 elements and the 9 palaces, because your curriculum means you came to fulfill certain things in this lifetime. And once you fulfill them, then you check that little box off on your list and you feel complete. And what we're all looking for, what brings happiness in life, is a sense of completion. It's a sense of, yes, I did what I came to do. And that's really exciting when that happens. And so that's the 5 elements in the 9 palaces. Now, the alchemy, like Jay says, is that fairy dust that brings the magic to life, that makes life magical.
You know, that word alchemy is kind of out there in the world right now. I don't want to say it's a little overused, but it is out there and it's a really cool word and it's out there in the world. And, you know, I'm not sure everyone has different meanings, definitions, thoughts about that word. It's a concept, Leta. Why don't you talk a little bit about how when you started to learn alchemy and why it's so important in your life?
Well, after starting my Chinese medicine practice, I became more and more interested in like the emotional causes of illness and disease because I noticed that so many people came into my practice who were sick of some sort of illness, and they usually said that the illness started when they were really stressed out or that some traumatic event had happened. And I kept getting more and more curious about that fact. And then I heard about this teacher, Dr. Jeffrey Yuen, who was giving a talk on alchemy and Chinese medicine.
So about what year was that? You've been doing it for 20 years. So about what year was that?
Well, it was about 5 years into my practice. So around 2004, I met Dr. Jeffrey Yuen, Master Yuen. And, you know, I was a newbie back then. There had been people studying with him for like 20 years. And so I was just this baby practitioner and I was sitting in the back of the class, but I was enthralled with what he was saying. It was such a different view of healing in medicine, not to see people as sick, but to see people as well. And then, you know, trying to bring them into that state of wellness.
So that's like a shift in your perspective.
Yes.
Like a whole dynamic shift.
Yes.
You know, I love big shifts in people's lives and the perspectives. When the perspectives turn and your life changes, those are moments.
Turning points.
Turning points. That's why it's such a cliche thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for me, you know, learning from Master Yuen was a huge turning point. You know, I wasn't really seeing people as sick, but I was certainly treating the illness that the person brought in instead of treating the person as already in perfect health and just helping them align with that state mentally. So it's getting them back to that mental state of perfect health that they used to have when they felt well. So it sounds overly simplistic, but in reality, it's an amazing practice. And it just felt like the piece I needed to complete my puzzle as a practitioner.
Yeah. And it does sound sometimes like just too easy, you know, but I think this concept totally holds true when I work with clients on the 5 elements and the 9 palace. Someone comes in and they think their life is in the shredder and oops, can I say that? In the crapper. I don't even know if I can say that, but their life is just not what they want. They have maybe made mistakes they think are mistakes, or they have regrets, but the adjustment, if they can just make an adjustment in their life, a shift in their perspective, then they can turn them into a new direction. And guess what?
What?
When they make that shift, they have a great life, not just an okay life. A lot of people are like, it's okay. I'm okay with okay. So they can maybe shift that perspective. They can start to tell new stories that celebrate all that is good in their palaces, in their curriculum, in their life. Something they can dive deeper in if they have some really big issues they need to work through. And again, that's we send it over to the alchemy healers where they do some deeper emotional trauma work. And guess what? They make the adjustments and boom, they can start to rock it again. And many times, especially if they're just starting in alchemy, perhaps they're in stage 1, which is all about removing obstacles in their life. They have a lot going on. Self-cultivation's beginning, new habits are replacing old habits. They're getting self-awareness. We talked about being the watcher, like, I don't know, every podcast practically. The letting go meditation, all these fundamental pieces. And guess what? Now you get to go through the mystery gate.
Wow.
I know that was a lot for that. I'm so sorry, but I just got on a roll. But it's something fascinating to me. So at this point, Leta, let's switch this back. I'm sorry, I went off on a little thing there. Is this when you started to learn the ghost points, which is also this really cool thing that Leta does?
Yeah, the ghost points are part of alchemy. And actually, I discovered the ghost points first. I'd been working with them for a little while before I met Master Yuen. The ghost points are these acupoints that help people release traumatic events that are holding them back in their lives. And I'd already been, doing that for a couple of years. But Master Yuen really helped me understand them at a much deeper level. And again, the missing pieces for me as a practitioner fell into place when I met him, and everything just started, rocking.
So how does it fall under the alchemy there? I mean, let's take just a few minutes to understand that for some listeners who maybe don't quite understand how that falls into place.
Well, you can think of it this way. Before you start alchemy, you really need to make sure that there's nothing holding you back in your life, that you're not hooked into some old story that could be about a trauma. It could be about a person who is abusive. It could be about some situation where you were really, really stuck. We have a lot of stories like that from the past, and those prevent us from doing alchemy. So the ghost points are definitely something that, can help you along with that. And that's the thing with Master Yuen. He took it much further than I'd been thinking about, so much deeper. It's not so much focusing on this stress or this trauma that derails a person in the first place. It's about focusing on the true authenticity of a person before that stress or trauma occurred, and then finding a way to return them back to their original state.
So we're already that authentic person. We just lost our way, got off track.
Exactly. And it's not that we're broken, even though many people say that I must be broken. It's irreparable. I can't get back. And, they think they can never be the same again. And that's the illness. It originates in how we think about the events in our lives, because we're still perfect. We were born perfect. And even today, as broken as you may feel, you're still perfect.
Yeah, that's another concept that we weave into all of our work, the theory of the born perfect, of how you're already there, from our podcast to our classes to our workshop to our webinars, that's into our new book. It's all, it's one of the cornerstones of what we do, what we tell and what we talk about. People can sometimes come to conclusions about their lives, and often these conclusions are like they've totally messed it up, like you just said. It's these stories about these events, these traumatic events that people kind of get hooked into.
Yes, that's it. It's not the event itself that ruins people's lives. It's the way they think about that event. So Master Yuen says there are no incurable diseases. It's just whether a person can change their minds that indicates whether they can be cured.
Yeah, I just think that is just missing in this world today. We need to really all think about that.
So that leads me into, the next step, which is once you clear out these ghosts that we call these things from the past that are just weighing you down and hooking you into these stories, once we clear those away, then we can begin alchemy. And that's when you enter the mystery gate.
Yes.
And that's why we call the book Through the Mystery Gate. And the idea is that when you're ready to do alchemy, you're ready to sort of face the mystery. And the mystery is this darkness. You don't know what's on the other side, but you're willing to take that step. And that's really the willingness to look inside yourself. Amazingly, people are afraid to have that communion with their higher self. It's like they're scared of what's inside them.
Well, they've put a lot of armor up and barricades and just blocks. They don't even think about it, but yet it affects them every single day, every decision, whether it's, all the 9 palaces can be affected by the event and how they've lived from that event.
Right. And so once you're willing to enter the mystery gate, then you can begin to walk these stages of alchemy. And each stage of alchemy has a different theme, and each stage is like its own gate. So you need to walk through the stage 1 gate, which is entering the mystery gate. And then once you've done the work of stage 1, then you enter the next stage, and that has its own gate. And, you continue down that path. And so if you think of the 9 stages of alchemy as a map, a road map to how to evolve as a human being spiritually, then that's really, the way that they thought of it, the ancient alchemists. And so people may already have a Buddhist practice and they're trying to reach enlightenment, and, they might have some other tradition that they're working on. And those all can fit into these 9 stages. It's not that any of these concepts are that rare or unusual. It's really just putting them together in a very logical sequence. If you first do this stuff that's stage 1, and then you do stage 2, that really works well. That's what these ancient alchemists said. And so in modern day alchemy, what we're doing is we're trying to, transpose that into a doable way that we as modern day people can do. How can we do that? We can use meditations, we can do exercises, we can change the way we think about things. And just by changing the way we think about things, in stage 1, for example, you will find that people's approach to life feels really easy. Everything feels easy. That would be the success of stage 1, that feeling of ease in your life. So how many of us, are struggling? We find everything so hard, so difficult, like, work, or Jay, you have tons of people that come in and they're working through really real struggles.
Well, they have obstacles, and whether the obstacle is, an actual obstacle or something that they've created in their mind that is sometimes way bigger than what it is in reality.
Yes.
We just kind of look at that and see if we can get that perspective shift and see if we can get them thinking in a different way and how they can start to celebrate the goodness in their lives and not get stuck on the negative or the lack.
Yes.
We see that a lot. So I think that is great. That's what we're going to unpack in season 5. We're going to go through all the stages. We're going to start obviously with stage 1, and we're going to go through each one so you have a really good understanding. And if you do come into the Learning Center, we have meditations and classes and different things. We have collected all the tools that we use when we take people through this to get them the knowledge, the skills to be able to try to do this if they want to.
Yes. And so in our next podcast, we're going to talk about that mystery gate in detail.
We're going to take you all through
We're going to take you through the mystery gate.
And I just we're going to end that there because that's perfect. A little suspense. But I just want to remind everyone we have a separate podcast that you can listen to. It's called 5 Element Fridays. And guess when it's on, Leta?
Fridays?
Yay!
Yeah.
What is it about?
It's about the 5 elements.
5 Element Fridays. See, we made that so simple and so easy.
And so we're going to begin with a sequence of 5 Element Fridays on what meditation styles work best for each element type.
That's what we talked about the other night with our group, and it was just fascinating. And we knew we had tapped into something because there's no one meditation for everyone. You have to kind of understand. Almost in the beginning when I work with people, they're like, I've tried meditation. I can't do it. I can't quiet my mind. I have monkey mind. I have this. I have that. They're just trying to do the wrong meditation. Not that they're right or wrong or good or bad. They're just we just need to shift that perspective and try something until it goes ding, 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 ding. I can do this.
Yes.
And it's not that hard. And we just have to have the tools and the opportunities and the thought and the time to have a conversation with yourself.
Yes. So look forward to that. That's coming out soon.
So it's 5 Element Fridays on Fridays about the 5 elements.
There you go.
Yay.
Okay.
All right. And I hope to see you in the Learning Center soon. All right. Have a good day.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Inspired Action Podcast, and you've reached the end. Woohoo! Why not celebrate a little bit and click that subscribe button right there. We love having you with us on this journey, and we want it to continue.
You can also rate and review this podcast. And if you have already, thank you so much. We read all reviews, and your reviews help other people find this podcast as well. You can also be a part of this podcast yourself by submitting a voice recording message and emailing it to us at leta@inspiredactionpodcast.com or jay@inspiredactionpodcast.com.
And if you want, you can join our Facebook group or follow us on Instagram.
Join us next week for another Inspired Action conversation. And thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening, and remember to hug the dog.